Okay, so welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive
Hmm.
where we kind of take a look at some of the sources that you all send us and really kind of unpack them a bit. And
Yeah.
I am super excited about today's episode because we are going to be diving into human relationships,
Oh,
which is a topic I think we can all relate to on some level.
for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sources we're looking at today are pretty thought-provoking, I have to say.
I know. I know they offer some really unconventional perspectives on connection,
Hmm.
expectations, and even self-preservation.
Right. And I think
Yeah.
that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, one of the sources had this line that just really grabbed me.
Okay.
It said, people don't really love the amount of love they show you.
Hmm.
Like, whoa.
Wow. Yeah. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah, it really made me stop and think.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it challenges us to really consider the authenticity of our interactions.
Okay.
Are we really getting what we see? Is it possible that sometimes those outward displays of affection, maybe they aren't always aligned with genuine feelings?
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting because social psychology actually has a term for this. It's called the halo effect.
The halo effect.
Yeah, it's this cognitive bias where we tend to assume positive qualities about someone just based on their appearance or how they present themselves.
Oh, so like first impressions, basically.
Exactly. And the thing is, those first impressions, they might not reflect the person's true character.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we might be mistaking like charm or social savvy for actual depth.
Right.
And this next quote from one of the sources seems to build on that idea.
Okay.
It says, when necessary, people worship people as God, and then when need is over, they make him enemy and even complain and defame him.
Wow.
It's almost like, once that initial shine wears off, we're ready to turn on someone.
Yeah, it's almost like we have this tendency to go from one extreme to the other.
Right.
It really speaks to the danger of idealization. We put people on pedestals, we project our own needs and longings onto them, and we
Yeah.
build them up into something they're not. And then when they inevitably fail to meet those inflated expectations, well, the disappointment can be huge.
Yeah.
And it can lead to resentment, even hostility,
Oh, absolutely.
and I think it's almost a defense mechanism.
Oh, how's that?
Well, we shift the blame outward rather than acknowledging our own role in creating this unrealistic image.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
So how do we avoid falling into that trap, both on the giving and receiving end?
that's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
I think a key is cultivating what psychologists call cognitive flexibility.
Okay.
It's the ability to hold multiple perspectives at once.
Hmm.
So it's about accepting that people, including ourselves, are complex.
Right.
We're multifaceted. We all have strengths and weaknesses, moments of brilliance, and let's face it, times when we mess up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
So it's like embracing the gray areas.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why another source goes on to say, knowing people is the most difficult in the world, so beware of people. It's almost a warning to proceed with caution in relationships.
I don't think it's about becoming cynical or distrustful of everyone.
Right.
I think it's more about discernment.
Okay.
That ability to really observe, listen,
Yeah.
tune into someone's actions over time to get a sense of their character.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And it seems to connect with this next line that really stood out to me.
Okay.
It says, having an extra good relationship with someone or giving someone fast priority is the biggest mistake. People climb on their head and dance, and then the game of dirty politics starts.
Oh, wow.
So is it saying we shouldn't be too generous or accommodating?
I think it's more about, cautioning us about the potential downsides of overinvesting without establishing clear boundaries.
Oh, okay.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a new connection or to
Yeah.
want to help someone we care about. But if we're constantly bending over backwards or putting someone else's needs before our own, it can create an unhealthy dynamic.
So kindness doesn't mean being a doormat.
Exactly.
There's a difference between genuine support and letting someone take advantage.
Absolutely. And this next part really emphasizes that the biggest foolishness is to love too much, give fast priority, or to expect something better than people, is that if you value people more, you will decrease yourself. So, this is where self-worth comes into play.
Right.
Healthy relationships require a balance of giving and receiving mutual respect
Yeah.
and a recognition of each person's inherent value.
Yeah.
And if we're constantly diminishing ourselves to please others or sacrificing our own well-being, it ultimately undermines the foundation of the relationship.
That's a really good point.
That's like the oxygen mask analogy,
All right.
You have to take care of yourself before you can effectively help others.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to shift gears a bit because one of the sources introduces this concept of dreams. It says, dreams teach people to live. It's as if dreams are this driving force, that gives us direction and purpose.
Absolutely. I mean, dreams ignite our imagination. They fuel our aspirations. They give us something to strive for.
But then the source takes this kind of interesting turn.
Oh.
It says, once the dreams are broken again, people end up little by little.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this contrast?
It's powerful. It suggests that while dreams can be so inspiring, clinging too tightly to them can lead to heartbreak if they don't materialize.
Oh, yeah.
And I think maybe it's about holding our aspirations with an open hand, allowing for flexibility and adaptation as life unfolds.
Yeah, because things don't always go according to plan.
Exactly.
It makes me think about resilience. Like research shows that it's not about avoiding setbacks or disappointments altogether. It's about our ability to bounce back, to reframe our perspectives, and find new paths forward, even when we face challenges.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So after this deep dive, what would you say are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think it comes down to this approach, relationships with both your heart and your mind.
Okay.
Be open to connection, but also practice discernment.
Yeah.
Nurture your self-worth, establish healthy boundaries, and remember knowing yourself is as important as knowing others.
Right. And maybe it's about accepting that relationships, like life itself, are a journey. There will be moments of joy, connection, growth, and also times of friction, disappointment, and the need to reassess.
Absolutely.
So as you reflect on this conversation, I want you to consider this. What are your non-negotiables in a relationship? How do you balance your needs with the needs of others?
Yeah.
And how can you bring your most authentic self to your interactions?
Those are great questions to ponder.
Yeah, food for thought.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See